feel free to type it in the chat, because I'll definitely answer questions through the chat, or just write them down, and then then you can ask them when I take questions and answers towards the end. So we're talking about short-term rentals, right? That's what I do. That is my main niche. That is the strategy that I focus on within the real estate space. Quick introduction. I appreciate the very astute introduction. I thank you so much for that. And but just to kind of elaborate a little bit more, my name is Tijani. Like you mentioned, I did graduate with an engineering and mathematics degree from University of Houston, in which I went on to work in the oil and gas industry. And worked in oil and gas, landed a position, worked as a subsea installations engineer, but my time in oil and gas required me to travel quite a bit. I was working offshore, I was working on the rigs. As you can see, this kind of first picture at the top left was on a helipad on a subsea installation vessel. Me and a good friend of mine, David, we had just gotten done with the 3-week hitch, and we were getting ready to take the chopper out to head back to Houston. And the bottom left picture here, you kind of see me doing what we call a man basket transfer, where I had wrapped up I believe it was about a 4-week hitch on a subsea installation vessel that I transferred over to another vessel and did another 2 weeks. So that's kind of what I did. I worked as an engineer installing subsea equipment that produces crude oil and hydrocarbons. So whenever I was in town, I didn't have to go into the office. I didn't have to go into the office much, so I took advantage of my time whenever I was in town, and I studied real estate. I started getting into real estate advanced. I started buying real estate properties, and so I was buying real estate on the side while I was working my full-time job. So what ended up happening is I was kind of put in a difficult spot come 2017, because as y'all might know or might not know, the oil and gas market is quite finicky. And so what happened was, when the price of oil went from $100 a barrel all the way down to $40 a barrel, and it costs about $42 a barrel to build and produce oil, a lot of these major operators stopped drilling. And so I was on the ExxonMobil portfolio. When my project was done, they really didn't have any other projects for me to do. So they wanted to move me to another position. They were actually trying to keep me in the company. But the next position they wanted me to put me in would have been more time in the office and half of my salary. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and bet on myself. And that's how I got into real estate full time. I had about 5 rental properties when I left. So while I was building my portfolio on the side, when I was working as an engineer, it definitely was very, very good and put me in a position to where I can say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna take the shot on myself and do this real estate thing full time. And so in my market research, I wasn't even necessarily looking to do short-term rentals. I was just researching how to market and how to get more leads. And I came across a video about Airbnbs. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try this strategy. At the time, I had 2 houses that I was remodeling. One was gonna be a flip, and one I was gonna keep as a traditional rental property. And so then I decided to try this Airbnb thing on that one that I was gonna keep as a traditional rental. And the next day, when I listed it, the next day I had 2 bookings come in. So I was like, oh wow. So even if when I did the math, I said, man, even if I'm booked just half of the month, I will still make more money with this one property than I would have if it was a traditional rental. So that's why I decided to sink my teeth into this strategy. And so now we are closing in on, I believe, I got to count it again, but I think I'm going on my number 20th, my 21st unit. So it's been a huge blessing. It's been a life transforming thing for me, and it kind of became my main strategy. So I pivoted from wholesaling and doing fix and flip and doing creative things to kind of making this strategy be my main strategy. I actually haven't done a flip in about 12 months, which is kind of crazy because I'm used to doing at least 4 or 5 flips a year. So the short-term rental strategy has been the thing. And I started documenting what I was doing. I started letting people know, documenting it. And so then people started reaching out. I said, oh man, I see you doing this thing with your Airbnb. And just over time, I kind of became kind of that the go-to person for this strategy. So it's been a huge, huge blessing for me. So I was kind of put in a difficult spot and I forced to get laid off. I took the severance package instead of taking that position. And so that's kind of helped catapult me to where I am today. So I want to get into the topic. I want to get into let's talk about short-term rentals as a whole, because there's definitely a few things to cover. So the rebirth of short-term rentals, and I say rebirth because short-term rentals isn't a new concept. It's actually been around for a long, long time. As a matter of fact, it's actually been known that even back to Abraham Lincoln, whenever he was on his campaign trail, he would stay in different people's apartments in their spare couches or their spare bedrooms. That is considered a short-term rental. And corporate housing companies have been around for a long time. But corporate housing was so reserved for either touristy spots, right? These beachy locations, or there were these big companies that you have to have these huge portfolio to even be able to do corporate housing. And so Then Airbnb kind of came about, and it kind of made it a global movement. So by definition, short-term rentals are stays that are 29 days or less, right? By definition. So it's not a new thing. Like I mentioned, it definitely has old ways. But now Airbnb came into the mix and brought the short-term rental strategy to kind of more metropolitan areas, these urban areas, these neighborhoods and whatnot. And so when Airbnb came about, it was kind of still more so reserved for people that had a spare room in their house, or people that traveled a lot on vacation, but they wanted to just earn extra money while they were out of town. And so then entrepreneurs like myself came in and said that, you know what, we can make more money doing this strategy than traditional rentals. And so when Brian Chesky, the founder of Airbnb, kind of got a hold of that, he kind of sunk into he kind of embraced this notion of entrepreneurs that want to do Airbnb full time. And so now his goal is to make like 10 million, 100 million entrepreneurs before he retires. And so that's how Airbnb became such a global movement, and it has been it's been changing lives all over the world. So there are multiple ways to host, right? There are different ways you can be a short-term rental investor, or do this strategy. So you can be a landlord host. Landlord host meaning that you own the real estate that you have, like you own the real estate. So whether it's a full-time short-term rental property, like ones that I have, where it does nothing but it's a full-time short-term rental property, nobody else lives there, that is the one use that it has. Or maybe you own a house and you live in it, but you have a spare room. That will still consider you a landlord host. Then there is kind of a growing strategy, which is new for a lot of people, but this is the strategy within the space that is making people a lot of money, which is also called rental arbitrage. And so rental arbitrage is control without ownership. This is also considered master leasing. This is where you have the ability to actually go into and rent from a landlord, or it could be a landlord, it could be an apartment complex, which are also known as REITs. REITs are real estate investment trusts. And it's usually REITs that own like large commercial buildings, whether they're commercial spaces or large apartment complexes, they're all considered REITs. So whether you're renting from a REIT or whether you're renting from a landlord, it is a great way to take down these properties under a business. Now, sometimes people, and I've actually ran into different people that actually teaches the different way to where you can just rent these properties and turn them into Airbnbs. But I teach how to rent them the right way, how to rent them under your business. You want to make sure you do it the right way. You want to make sure that you rent it under your business for multiple reasons. For one reason, if you rent a property under your business, you are by definition bypassing a subleasing clause. Because if you rent a property under your name, they qualified you. They did not qualify anybody else that's going to stay there. So that's why subleasing is so frowned upon. So, but if you were to do it under a business, it is understood that that business can't stay there. Somebody's going to be staying on behalf of the business. So when people say, hey, I want to do this business and I want to do short-term rentals, I tell them, okay, for one thing, go ahead and get your LLC going as soon as possible. Go ahead and get it going as soon as possible, because some different apartment complexes have different requirements. They might want you to have the LLC for at least 6 months or at least 12 months or something like that. Some might not have that requirement, but just go ahead and get it going and keep it in good standing, because you're going to be renting these properties under that business. Reason number two why it's very important that you do it under a business is because understand that as you are renting this property out to other people, whether you want to or whether you like to or not, know that you're operating as a business. So you are providing a service to somebody else. If somebody slips and fall, or they break a glass and they cut themselves and decide that they want to hold you liable, guess who's held liable? Whichever name is on their lease agreement. So if your personal name is on a lease agreement, everything that's tied to your name is exposed to that lawsuit and that liability claim. So you want to make sure that you put it under your business, because it's another way of protecting and shielding yourself. So you want to operate. If you're gonna operate as a business, then operate as a business. I don't know if you ever heard the term that says if you treat your business as a hobby, it's going to cost you like a hobby. But if you treat it as a business, it's going to pay you like a business. So make sure we want to do things like operate this business as a business. You want to make sure that you rent these properties under a business entity. Third strategy is to co-host, right? When you co-host, you don't own the property, nor do you rent the property, but you are more so facilitating somebody else's right to do this business. So maybe you work with a landlord, and you work with the landlord, you say, hey, instead of renting this property out traditionally, you can actually be a short-term rental host. You can be on Airbnb and these multiple platforms. You can be a host, and I'll manage it for you. And that's you co-hosting. That means it's their listing, they pay for the furniture, and you come in and you just collect the management fee for managing it for them. In some cases, you hear Management fees are going to be around anywhere between 20% of the gross revenue all the way up until the highest I've heard is about 35% of the gross revenue. And so if you're a co-host, that's how you make your money. So, you know, if you don't own property, you can still make money. You can still make money in this business. If you want to do rental arbitrage, that's great. You can make money in this business. Or if you don't want to do either, you want to co-host and facilitate somebody's right to do this to host, then you can manage it for them. And that's another way that's another strategy that you can use to earn cash flow in this business as well. So there are laws, right? There are laws. Now understand that there are different laws in different markets. Not every single market is short-term rental friendly. Now some markets are more friendly than others. Like Houston, we are a very short-term rental friendly market. That's why Houston is one of the best markets to do this business in, which is where we are. We're here in Houston, but different markets have different requirements. There are other markets, I think about 80–85% of markets for the most part are short-term rental friendly. But if they are not, you need to find out. It's not necessarily that they're not short-term rental friendly, but they just want you to have certain requirements. They might want you to have a permit that you need to pay a yearly fee for in order to do the business. So you just need to look into what your local laws is within your market, and you need to make sure that you're adhering to those laws if you are looking to get into this business. Another thing you want to look out for is maybe your market in terms of your city is friendly towards short-term rentals, but that particular area, that neighborhood might take exception to it. So, for example, there's right outside the medical center here in Houston, there's like a nice multiple townhome communities, but this one particular townhome community that was new and developed. I know a friend of a friend who purchased like 3 of these 3-story townhomes strictly to do short-term rentals and put them on Airbnb. And he launched it, he furnished it, he launched it within a month. The HOA said, hey, we don't allow that in this particular, we don't allow that here. So he had to transition them into traditional rentals because they shut down his short-term rental. Now, Houston, like I mentioned, Houston's very short-term rental friendly, but that particular HOA had restrictions within that particular area, that particular neighborhood. So you want to make sure that you do your research before you get into, when you identify a property that you want to make sure that you do your research to make sure that it's okay, and you're not going to have any issues earning money from it as a short-term rental. So within that, there are multiple strategies to host, right? Within that, so you can host your entire house, and which is what we do. Our business and our systems are set up to host the entire place. So no matter, I have units that sleep as low as 6. I have units that sleep as much as 18 people. So, and we all host the entire place because that is what works for our business. That is what works for our systems. It's the easiest to manage and easiest to scale, works for any size property. This is what will allow you to have the least amount of turnover. So the least amount of turnovers. So, or you can do per room, right? And depending on the property, per room can be more profitable. There was a 4-story townhome that I was renting from a landlord, and each room, it was a 3-bedroom, 3.5 bathroom. Each room had its own bathroom. That situation is pretty ideal for a per room basis. Like I could actually have rented each room out instead of the entire place and have them share like the common areas, which is like the living room and the kitchen, but have each room have its own listing. And depending on the property, that can definitely be more profitable than doing the entire place. But understand that your systems have to be built for that. You're going to have more turnover. So you need to make sure that you have a system to handle the more turnovers. But it can have more income potential depending on the area. If you have a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath property, that's another, that might be another good candidate to do a per room basis. Then digging even further, you can do per bed. Now, this strategy is this is the hardest one to manage, because then imagine even more turnovers within the turnovers. So there's actually in my property, there's a neighborhood called Washington Terrace in Houston that I own 3 duplexes in. Down the street from there is a big 4-plex. It's about a 4,000 square foot building, and it was completely converted into a kind of a hostel hotel. And the owner does short-term rentals as a per bed basis. They have their male quarter and their female quarter, and then they rent these properties out on a per bed basis. And it's very, very profitable. So it just depends. Sky's kind of the limit. There are multiple ways that you can do it, multiple strategies even within this business that you can host and earn cash flow. So what type of space will be your short-term rentals, right? So this will be determined by the type of guest of who you want to serve. That's the number one question. When people look to get into this business, I say, well, who are you serving? Who is actually traveling to that area? Like, you got to know who what I like to call your guest avatar is. Are you serving business travelers? Are you serving medical people? Are you serving weekend travelers? Are you serving vacationers? Whatever the case may be, that the type of space your short-term rental is going to be determined by, one, who you're going to serve, And it's also going to be determined by the location. What does the location have to offer, right? Is it next to a college town? Is it next to a pro sports team like the stadiums? Here we have Minute Maid Park for baseball. We have the NRG Stadium for football. We have a Toyota Center for basketball. So if you are near these, close to these stadiums, then you're likely going to be serving folks that are traveling to watch the pro sports teams. So major events or festivals, I think marathon, I think rodeo, think conventions. So we have a lot of convention centers here in Houston, which I'm sure a lot of major cities do. So definitely look out for that as well. Medical facility, we have here in Houston, we have the #1 medical center in the nation, I believe. So, and literally most of about 90% of my properties are within 10 minutes of the medical center. So we serve a lot of medical folks, whether they're doctors traveling to Houston to perform procedure, or they're patients that gets procedure done and are looking to rent our units to recover. We also rent our units to a lot of families that are here for medical folks. So, and the corporate headquarters, right? So if you're next to business sectors, whether it's the downtown area, we have the Galleria area is a major financial sector for us. We have the energy corridor here in Houston. So those are good corporate headquarters. So if you have units close to these areas, understand that you are going to be serving these folks, and you want to make sure that you are setting up your units to kind of tailor to those folks, right? So if you're serving business travelers, make sure you have a desk with a workstation in it. So like for example, we are actually in this bedroom is just one of the unit is a bedroom is one of the bedrooms in a 3-bedroom house here that I'm about to launch this week, and we are in about 5 minutes from downtown. So I'm literally talking to you guys from a workstation, from a desk in this unit. So so having stuff like that to tailor into who you want to serve is very, very important. So some general marketing tips. Understand that short-term rental platforms are not the type of business that you're in. Now, a lot of people, when they talk to me, or I come up with conversations, oh, TJ is the Airbnb guy. That's fine, I'll take it. But understand that Airbnb is not the business I'm in. I'm a short-term rental investor. I'm in the real estate space with the specifics on short-term rental investing. Airbnb is just one of many platforms that are out there, but it just so happened to be the most known platform. That's why everybody is so attuned to Airbnb. But with that, I say start with Airbnb. When you're looking to get your new unit launch, start with Airbnb. It definitely still to this day gets the most hits per month. I think they're averaging 50 to 60 million hits a month on Airbnb. So they still get the most eyes, they still get the most traffic, and they actually have the most turnkey platform. Like when you are running a business, things like payroll, payment collection, things like that cost money, right? So these are things that Airbnb already have inside the platform, and so they have the most turnkey system. When you are listing on Airbnb, leave nothing blank. Like when you first get going, when you launch your property, understand that when you launch it, you have not filled in everything that needs to be filled out. There are a lot of things that need to be filled out, but you cannot get to them until you've actually published and launched your unit. And then you got to go back and fill it out. So make sure you're careful with that. Leave nothing blank. Airbnb loves an attentive, a very completed profile, a very completed listing. So definitely leave nothing blank when you list with them. Choose one channel to start, and then add as you improve and build systems and your team. This is very important because a lot of people, they launch and they want to get on Airbnb, they want to get on Expedia, VRBO, Booking.com. You don't need to do all that. You actually will be setting yourself up for failure if you do that. Start with one, Airbnb, namely. So start with one. And fine tune your systems, fine tune your team, fine tune your automation. And then once you feel like you have a great handle on your systems, then you can branch out to other platforms. If I have anything to do with it, if you're going to take anything from me today, make sure you take professional photos. See, there's a pecking order when people book on these platforms. The number one deciding factor when people book are photos. People fall in love with the photos first. So make sure you use professional photography. I still see a lot of listings, and when people ask me to critique their listings, like, TJ, look at my listing, and I look at the listing, the one thing I see, do you have professional photos? A lot of times they don't. So go ahead and invest that extra $100, $200, whatever it is, and get professional photos done. In that pecking order, photos are number one. The number two is your reviews. Yes, photos actually come before reviews. It's a very close, it's very close, but reviews actually come second. People fall in love with the photos first, but the reviews are very, very important as well. The third on that pecking order is actually the quality and your listing, the way you actually have your listing outlined. So the details of your listing on the actual listing itself. That's the third thing, the third deciding factor. So keep that in mind. Always make sure you take professional photos with all your listings. So when it comes to rental arbitrage, right? We talked about rental arbitrage is control without ownership. This is the master leasing strategy. Now you can rent from a REIT or you can rent from what we like to call owner control. So owner control is also like a landlord. A REIT is like a big complex, an apartment complex. So your approach to them are going to be quite different when you want to do a corporate lease. So a REIT is like a corporation with policies and rules. And to be quite frank, a lot of them are really, really difficult to get into. And I'm just be very honest with you. A lot of times they want you to have certain level of experience. They want you to have they want your entity to be a certain have a certain tenure. They can be a little bit difficult to get into, but an owner control person is a lot easier to get into. You have a much easier chance to get to deal with the guy in charge, the person in charge, whether it's the landlord or the agent or whatever the case may be. It is easier and the best bet for renting success. Now, if you are looking to get into a REIT, definitely get into a REIT. Like that should be, if that's one of your goals, that's perfectly fine. But understand that there are certain qualifications that you need to meet. If you, I don't know if you guys are familiar with a DUNS number, which is a Dun and Bradstreet number, which is tied to your business. So you need to get, once you have your business set up, go ahead and set up your Dun and Bradstreet. See, for your personal credit, we have our social security number, right? For our businesses to get report to the IRS, we have our EIN number. But for our business reporting for our business, it's called your Dun and Bradstreet number, DMB, DUN and Bradstreet. So if you use Google, it'll pop up right away. It's free to get one for your business. You want to get your Dun and Bradstreet set up for your business because that's one of the ways that the apartment complexes qualifies you is through your Dun and Bradstreet. So either that or they qualify you through your financials. So we're still renting under your business, but they might want to see like bank accounts, they want to see referrals, they want to see, you know, they might just have different requirements based on referrals, trade references. So trade references is pretty much like who you've done business with, right? Is there any other businesses that you've done business with that you've made concurring payments to? So they might want to qualify you based on that as well. So that's, you have to have your business profile set up in order to get qualified with the REIT, but it's definitely very, very, very doable. And it's really not not that complicated to do. I promise you, if I can do it, trust me, anybody can. So yeah, owner control folks, you have a much better chance of getting the yes from them to do this business. It can be a person, it can be a small company, they can be a duplex, a single family, 4-unit, 10-unit, 20-unit, whatever the case may be. But you can either rent from a REIT or owner control. And the idea is to rent the property and then furnish the property and then rent the property on a nightly basis. See, a lot of people want, one of the questions that I get a lot is like, well, TJ, how is that you can charge a nightly rate to earn money from these properties? Like, you're going to charge a nightly rate? Well, yes, you can, because take, for example, a bottle of water, right? So say if you go to Walmart, buy a case of water, that case of water, you could probably spend like $4 on a 24, 32 pack of case of water. Probably cost you like $4. But if you go to a gas station, say you're on the road and you go to a gas station, you stop and buy one bottle of water, it might cost you $1.50. Well, why is it they able to charge more for that one bottle of water? And you can get a whole case for like $4. Well, that one bottle of water is already ready to go. You don't have to take it out. You don't have to unpackage it. Keep it in the fridge, chill it. You know, it's already ready to go. Just grab it and it's already turnkey ready for you. That's essentially what you're doing with these properties. You are now providing an empty space. You are providing a turnkey product. That's why you can charge a nightly rate for it. And that's why that bottle of water, that's why they can charge $1.50 for that one bottle of water, because it's already chilled, it's ready to go. You're providing a space that's furnished. You're providing a space with pots and pans, with towels, with linens, all that stuff, coffee, teas, everything that they will need, that they won't even need to bring anything. Even in our spaces, we provide pack and play, high chairs, even if you have a toddler, because we serve a lot of families. So that's why we can charge a nightly rate. So the idea when you do rental arbitrage is you rent a property, say for on average, you're paying $1,500 a month on rent, right? That's about $50 a night. But you furnish the property and you can charge $150 a night, right? So that delta, that difference, that is your cash flow. That is meant for you. So that is the idea between doing rental arbitrage. So for us, we do both, right? I own a majority of my portfolio, but I also do rental arbitrage. And I think right now it's about 60-40. I own about 60% of my portfolio, but I rent about 40% of my portfolio. By the end of the year, it's going to be about 50-50, which is where I want to be. I want to be about 50-50, where I own about 50% and I rent about 50%. So we do both, right? These are just kind of some pictures of some of our listings that we have here in Houston. Completely fully furnished, make sure it's designed, take professional photos. You want to make sure that you provide a product like this. And the thing is that everybody that checks into your unit this has to show. Like it has to look just like this. So the team members, the people that are handling your turnovers and your cleaning team members, those are very, very, very important. So it's a few must do's. Do your market research to determine how much you can potentially make, right? You can do your market research. You can just go on the Airbnb itself and just do the research that way. You can click on a listing, look at the prices, look at what they're charging, look at how occupied they are. Or there's a software called AirDNA. AirDNA, that's AIRDNA.co, I believe. But if you just search AirDNA, they'll pop right up. AirDNA actually is a software that allows you to do market research on a specific unit. So if you just put the address of a unit that you're looking to do short-term rentals with, it'll give it a grade. It will let you know what other units like it are charging per night, how much they're making on a yearly basis. So it'll give you a really good idea of what what you can potentially make with your unit. When you look for a unit, make sure you confirm the logistics before committing to a unit. When you go look at a property, whether it's the owner control or it's a REIT, you want to go look at how do people check in, like how's the parking situation, right? How's the check-in process? How does food get delivered? You want to make sure that this is going to be a pretty seamless process for every guest that comes in there. So you want to confirm that the logistics make sense for your unit. Making units nice and homely, guests expect more nowadays, right? Maybe a few years ago, maybe 5 to 8 years ago, you didn't have to have such a nice, your place didn't have to be so nice to make money on Airbnb. And so back then you could just have any couch, any rinky-dink mattress on the floor. And because Airbnb was just such a new concept, it was just such a commodity that everybody was making money on Airbnb. But nowadays people expect more. Not only do guests expect more, but understand that other hosts are coming with it these days, right? So you want to make sure that your place is nice, is homely, and you are providing a quality product, and that's what's going to keep you booked. Tailor your units to who you want to serve, right? So I touched on this earlier. So if you serve family, make sure you have children's books, right? Or books for kids. Make sure you have like plates and dish sets for kids. That's ideal for kids. Desks for business travelers, things like that. One of the things that we do, we serve a lot of medical folks, a lot of medical travelers. So we make sure that we put a flat screen 4K smart TV in each bedroom of our unit. So do you have to have a TV in each bedroom in your units? No, not necessarily, but because of who we serve. Because a lot of people that travel here for medical reasons, that when they're recovering at our properties, they're not very mobile, right? They're recovering, they're not very mobile. So they appreciate the fact that there are ways they can stay entertained by having a TV inside the room. But because we know who we serve, we provide things like that. And this is those things like that, keeping those thoughts in your forefront. Those are the things that'll get you booked. And by the way, with our team, we provide Netflix, we provide cable with YouTube TV. Streaming cable with YouTube TV, which is great because you don't have to have like a big cable box for every unit that you have. You can just stream the cable and log into all the TVs between your multiple units and save a lot of money that way. So we provide Netflix, cable with YouTube TV, and now we also do Disney Plus because we serve a lot of families. So Disney people really, really like that Disney Plus, and so those are what we provide for our guests. I also have a guidebook. We have a guidebook that we provide for our guests. They get a digital version 3 days before they check in. They can click, there's a link that we send them that goes, it's fully automated. So they get a link to the guidebook, but there's also a physical version of the guidebook at each property as well. And the guidebook has just information like, check-in instructions, Wi-Fi information, recommendations, places to eat, activities, things like that. Any information that you want to put in the guidebook, you can include in the guidebook. Beds, that's one thing that you don't want to cheapen. Don't cheapen your bed. People expect a very comfortable sleep. Be accessible, be available. Your response rate matters, right? This is another way that you stay ranked and make sure that you are actually keeping your search rankings pretty high within Airbnb. Your response rate matters. Hire a management company if you don't want to set up on yourself or you don't mind giving away some profit. See, what I teach people how to build the infrastructure, build the management company, build the team, build the software, build the technology to help you, which technology to use and which softwares to use to actually help you run your business on autopilot. So when you build the business and you build you're essentially building a management company. That way, if you want to do rental arbitrage, you want to own your own short-term rentals, or you're co-hosting, you've built the management company to do either one, all three of them, all three strategies if you want to. But if you don't want to build a management company, you want to get something set up, then just hire somebody to manage it for you. That's another way that you can still do it. But you will be giving away some of your profits. But definitely, it's a completely hands-off approach. So depending on what your goals are, it could work well for you either way. Reviews are crucial, right? Reviews are very, very crucial. That's one of the top ways that people decide whether they want to book with you. But the best way to get a review is to ask for it. Ask for it. We ask every single guest that checks out to review us. and it's a message that we send out, and it goes out automatically. It's fully systematized. And so yeah, we ask for get the right insurance coverage, which is very important, because especially if you're doing rental arbitrage, a traditional renter's policy is not going to cover you if you're doing rental arbitrage. You want to make sure that you get insurance for short-term rental with coverage, which has rental coverage, but it also has liability coverage to protect you as well. So you want to make sure that you get the right insurance coverage. There's a company that we use called Proper Insurance. Proper Insurance, they provide coverage for you, whether you want to do rental arbitrage or whether you own the short-term rental. They provide coverage for you either way. Make sure your units are easily accessible. Use technology, right? Use technology to help manage your home, which is one of the things that helps us a lot. We use technology to manage all of our systems, all of our units as well. Who do you need on your team, right? Designer, right? I personally, when I got started in this business, I thought I was doing so. I designed all my units, and then I hired a designer. And then I was put to shame very, very quickly, and I realized I wasn't doing anything. This is why it's good to hire people who are good at what they do. But yeah, hire designer, professional designer, if you can. Now, you don't have to use a professional designer. There's actually a software that you can use to help design for you digitally. Like the one that we use mainly, Havenly. Havenly is one that we use to help design our units. You take pictures. I think they charge like $75 for every room, and they'll design it for you. They'll ask you questions about your taste, things like that. They'll design. They'll include links for all the items that are on there, and to where you can go get them from. Your cleaning service, which I believe is probably the most important team member that you're gonna have, is your cleaning team, because they handle your turnover for you. They will make or break you, and it's okay that you may have to run through a few cleaning crew members to find the right one that works for you. Let's see, I've been going on 3 years in this business, and I think I have. I have 2 different cleaning crews right now, but I think I probably ran through about 5 or 6 crews before I found these solid crews that I'm working with right now. So linen and laundry, if you hire an outside linen and laundry service to handle your linens, you can. Or you can have it to where your cleaners are handling that as well. Maybe they do the laundry there on site, or maybe they take the dirties with them and bring the clean. And like, you should have 3 sets of linens for each room that you have. 3 sets of linens. You should have one that's being used, one that is in the closet that's on storage for you, that your guests don't have access to. That's the one that's gonna be used. Your cleaners are gonna use to replace it. And your third set is the ones that's getting clean. So your cleaners could take the dirties, come back with the clean, swap it out, and just rinse and repeat the process. But you still have a spare in your cleaner's closet, just in case. Calendar management. So we use calendar management because we are on multiple platforms, right? We're on Airbnb, we're on Booking.com, we're on VRBO, all those sites. So if somebody books it on Airbnb, those dates need to be blocked off on every other site that is listed on. So you want a calendar management software to do that for you, to help manage your calendar. Booking and guest support, which is important because this is one of the ways that we communicate with our guests. We have automated messages that goes out to our guests, check-in instructions, things like that. Guest support is another it's another very important part of the team that you'll need, and you can use that via software as well. Inspector, runner, this you won't need for a while. I'll probably say have at least 10 units before you can actually hire a runner. This is like your boots on the ground person that's going to be on call 24/7. So a lot of the stuff that the runner does, you will be doing in the beginning, like while you're getting your units, and as you scale and you ramp up and you grow your portfolio, then you can hire a runner for you to replace a lot of the stuff that you were doing. Let's see. I know I'm running through this, guys. Just my computer does not want to click over. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, yeah. So questions. Now I'm ready. Now I'm ready for questions. Ask away. And I want to touch on something else real quick before I go to questions. So I do have a program to where I work with people on a kind of a lockstep process to help you build and scale your short-term rental portfolio and your short-term rental business. So I'm going to leave this here while we're taking questions. Just Calendly.com/STR roadmap, and just book a call with me if you're interested in talking to me and to seeing if you can be a part of the program, the mentorship program. But yes, 100%, I'm ready for the question.
All right, thank you so much, TJ. That was a very complete, a very informative presentation. So we're now at the question and answer discussion session. So there are a couple of questions in the chat box, but please go ahead and raise your hand on the app so that way we can get to the questions. So the first one, I'm just going to read from the chat box here. It says, are rates different for business versus individuals related to buying furniture, utilities like streaming cable, you know, for the Airbnbs?
Well, first of all, the question is not ignorant whatsoever. Not even a little
It's
bit.
not.
No, but it's interesting because not really, to be honest with you. I remember when I started again, because I use AT&T for all my internet service, for example, and I ended up getting an AT&T business account. I got an AT&T business account, and the rates didn't change at all, to be honest, but it did come with certain benefits that were pretty worthwhile, like having a dedicated rep. So whenever I need a new service, I'm not calling AT&T and being on hold. I text my guy. I just text my AT&T rep, say, hey, hey, Tyson. Tyson's the name of my guy. His name's Tyson. I say, hey, Tyson, we got a new unit I'm setting up. Here's the address. Let me know what time. He said, okay, great. Is tomorrow good for installation? Cool. It's super easy. If I have any issues with connectivity, connecting issues, it's just a streamlined, easier way to get your needs addressed. But the rates in terms of cost, it doesn't change. It doesn't change. And even like with now when I tell you with furniture, when I tell you with furnishing, for one thing, you want to try to work with a local person that you can work with when you ordering furniture, because that way you have a best chance of getting better deals. And I've worked with a local person, and now, you know, we've done so much business together that, you know, he gives me crazy deals on furniture. Like, he knows and exactly what I do, exactly what I like, what I want. And whenever I hit him up, he already knows what time it is, and he hooks me up. He takes care of me. So so that's definitely going to be a relationship, you know, based kind of situation. But yeah, things like that definitely do matter. Streaming cable doesn't matter. All that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So yeah. Awesome.
All right, Deji, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Deji has a question.
Edie, I see you, Edie. I'm sorry, my guy just shouted me. That's my guy, man. Anthony, what's up?
Yeah, what's good, TJ? Thank you.
Oh, which Deji's talking?
There's a Deji 83.
Okay. Good question. Thank you. So, all right. So, great presentation. Two questions.
Yeah.
First question is, what's your profit? Not to get too much into numbers, but just
let's get into the numbers. Yeah.
What's your profit margins, right? Like, you got rent, you have, I know you're a mathematics guy, so I know this stuff is probably like your thing. So like, you got that, you got the expenses, turning things over, like all those great features. Like, what are your profit margins?
So one of the things that's important in this business is that the offense is crucial, right? The cash flow. But the defense is just as important. You want to make sure that you stay skinny in terms, and you want to be lean in terms of your expenses. Ways that you can do that, use streaming cable service, right? Streaming cable, that way you can spread out the cost across multiple units, things like that. Even the softwares that we use, they, you know, when you spread it out across multiple units, it's not as bad. Now, some softwares charge per unit. Like, for example, we use a pricing software, like a pricing management software. There's one called Price Labs that we use. There's only 3 that I recommend. There's Price Labs, there's Wheelhouse, and then there's Beyond Pricing. These are pricing softwares that helps you manage and automate your pricing system. They charge, I believe, $6 per listing. So it just depends. But margin-wise, so I'll tell you this: for my 1-bedroom units, I probably on my 1-bedroom units are rental arbitrage. I don't have any 1-bedrooms that I own. But on my 1-bedroom units that are rental arbitrage, on the low end, I probably cash flow like $500 a month on the worst month of the year, right? But it can be, Yeah, so on the low end, $500. It can be as high as about $800, right? That's net take home. My 2 bedrooms, we're looking on the low end about $800. And then it could top out about $1,500. That's net take home cash flow on a 2-bedroom unit. Now, we talked a lot about rental arbitrage and ownership. There are pros and cons to doing both, right? Rental arbitrage once you take down the lease, just furnish it and get a cash flow. If you wanted to, when you take down a rental arbitrage property, you can have that thing launched within a week if you wanted to. But take the ones that I own, for example. That one takes more time. Like this property that I'm in right now, I had to rehab it, right? It took months for me to remodel this property, refinance this property, furnish this property. So it took time to get to this place to where I'm about to launch it. That's why I do both. While I'm launching this, while I'm working on this property, I'm still launching rental arbitrage units. But what I love about the properties that I own, outside of the fact of just owning it, right? The benefits of ownership, which I'm going to push. I'm going to push ownership at the end of the day because that's where the wealth is. But the ones that I own, the margins here are the margins on the units that that I own are ridiculously way better than the ones that I do rental arbitrage. Take, for example, I have a duplex that is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Each unit is a top and bottom duplex. Each unit is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. My mortgage on that duplex is right under $2,000 a month, right? And but I have a 1-bedroom unit with a rent of $1,500 a month for a 1-bedroom unit, right? So you can see the margins, and each of those units in that duplex does about $3K a month gross, right? So you can see those margins are really, really good versus the rental arbitrage one that I have. So even my 2-bedroom rental arbitrage, it still doesn't do better than the ones that I own. So that's why I love the ownership part of it. This project that I just wrapped up that I'm about to launch right now is actually 2 houses. There's 2 houses on one lot. One house sleeps 10, the other house sleeps 6. And the mortgage on the entire project is just one loan. The mortgage on it is going to be about $2,700 a month. Well, I have somebody that's already booked it. I haven't even launched it. Somebody's booked the entire. They want both houses because a large group is 14 of them. They're booked in for $700 a night, right? So that 1 3-day booking is gonna. That's just 3 days going to be able to take care of all the mortgage, the entire mortgage itself. So the margins when you own it is pretty good. But I love rental arbitrage because you're able to scale the business a lot quicker. You're able to scale it because you're able to take down a lot more units. And if you can get into a REIT, like for me, I'm into this REIT in Midtown right now. I've already secured 5 units in this REIT in Midtown. And I've only furnished 2. I got 3 more to furnish before the year is over. So you can scale the business a lot quicker when you do rental arbitrage. But you know, owning it, if you know how to take down these properties and when you can own them, those margins are a lot better. So there's pros and cons to doing both.
So I see. So one more question. I know people are gonna have a lot of questions for you.
Go ahead.
So all right. So now I see why it's transformational, right? To scale so quickly. So the other thing I wanted to ask you was, do you think you are at an advantage with the pandemic and everything because you're near a medical center and not because because that's the problem now. It's like people are shutting it down. Like I know Miami and a lot of places, they were shutting down Airbnb period. Like you will get fined. And now that they need the business, now it's open and everything. So how's that? Your experience, I'm assuming, has been good considering that you're doing the medical people.
Absolutely, and remember that question about who you want to serve. That question is so crucial, and it became so crucial during this whole this COVID situation. Who do we want to serve? When we peeled back the layers and we sat down with the team, when everything went down, we said, okay, how are we going to adjust? Because understand that. Well, I'll tell you this. For one, I was standing in front of one of my duplexes early March when I got the call that said, "Hey, TJ, man, look, they just shut down the rodeo, bro." And I'm like, wow, not even 30 minutes. My phone, blink, cancel. Everybody started canceling. All between March and April, I lost about 80% of the bookings that I was going to get. So I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, well, how can we adjust? How can we pivot? So we went back to the drawing board and we said, okay, so let's look at who we're serving. What kind of adjustments can we make? And so we changed up our pricing strategy. We started offering like discounts for super long stays. I was offering folks free flat screen TVs for booking 60 days plus. You book 60 days plus with us, you get a free 55-inch TCL Roku TV, flat screen, 4K TV. So we were providing all kind of crazy incentives for people to book with us. And then we also stopped relying on the OTAs. OTAs are online travel agencies. These are your Airbnbs, Booking.com, VRBOs. We stopped relying on them. Yes, they have been getting us a lot of bookings, making us a lot of money, but we started doing a lot of direct marketing ourselves. And so we have our own booking site. And we were marketing directly to these hospitals. Say, hey, we know there's a crisis going on right now, but we have beautiful properties that are here for your, for your workers, for your nurses, whoever. And so we started getting a lot of bookings there. We started filling up those spots with nurses, doctors, and so it ended up working out pretty well. We were able to that 80% of bookings we lost, we filled up 90% of them within 2 weeks after we lost all those reservations. So ended up working out pretty good. I think what's important to know is that as an entrepreneur, you are also a problem solver. Like, not only are you solving problems within your business, but you are also solving problems for the people that you serve and within your business as well. So if you're kind of the person that, because this was scary. It was scary for a lot of people, especially people that were doing short-term rentals, the travel agency, the airline agency. Is like, if you were the kind of person that just kind of sits back and lets things happen to you, so, oh, well, it's not my fault. This is why I lost in this situation. Well, things happen. But if you're the kind of person that just sits back and not problem solving, you really should reconsider this entrepreneurship thing. That's just no cap. So you have to be a problem solver within your business as well. And that's exactly what we did, because we're a problem solver. That's part of your job as an entrepreneur. So it ended up knowing who we're serving, because we knew exactly who we're serving. We served medical folks. And there were still businesses that were still kind of, we had attorneys, law offices in the downtown area that was still up and running. So we were serving those folks. We were having people that were just staying on a monthly basis that just needed to be closer downtown. So yeah, we ended up pivoting, and the pandemic hurt like in the beginning, but man, after we made those adjustments, we were able to recoup a lot of those funds. And now, I mean, we don't got no discounts now. Now we're back in full swing. We've been in full swings for months now, and yeah, so things are back normal. And we actually get into this holiday season. I mean, I'm booked out. I got bookings out until March of 2021, so it's not even. We're doing pretty well right now.
Awesome. It looks like Edward Johnson, you have a question. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. And you guys, please feel free, raise your hands or type your questions in the chat box and we'll get to them. But Edward, if you're still there, go ahead and unmute yourself. Let's see. Okay.
I see some folks.
I'm not sure if he's there. So, but I have a question while we're waiting for Edward. So you mentioned about the REITs and the owner controlled. How do you approach them or these companies? Is there like a platform you go to, or do you just walk into this, be like, hey, I'm interested? How do you approach it?
Man, okay, so that's a great question. It's a loaded one as well. Okay, so your approach to a REIT is going to be different from your approach to an owner control person. Your approach to a REIT, for one, you are more so concerned with positioning your business, because that's what we want to see. So first of all, have your LLC ready to go. Have your Dun & Bradstreet number ready to go. Have your bank account statements ready to go, because they're likely going to ask for that. So you are when I talk to a REIT, and we're not ever positioning ourselves or trying to get the yes over the phone. For me, I just call and say, hey, do you guys have the bandwidth? Do you have the availability? Do you have corporate leases of corporate units available? Because most apartment complexes allocate about 20% of their units for corporate leases. So I call and ask, say, hey, you guys have any corporate units available? And say, oh yeah, we have some. So that's okay, great. I'd like to schedule a time for me to come see it. I don't talk about anything over the phone. My job is to get the yes that they have units, and then go see it. When I go see it, then I confirm the logistics. I confirm that it actually works with my systems. I confirm how the lock system works. Will they actually allow me to change the locks to put my keyless system on there? Will they actually, how's the parking situation there? How does Uber get delivered there, right? Where does Uber pick people up at? I want to make sure that things are going to flow as my guest is using this location. So if I like the place, then I say, okay, great. That's when I go and talk to them. Your job when you talk to them is to not, for one thing, don't say that, oh, I do Airbnb. Airbnb is not the business you're in. It's not the business you're in. You don't do Airbnb. You do corporate housing. That's what you do. And you provide corporate housing, and you serve these folks. Oh, we provide corporate housing to medical folks. We provide corporate housing to business travelers, and that's what we do. And we serve people that a lot of times they might want to say, hey, do you have a website? They might want to see a website. If you don't have one, that's fine. They might want to see pictures or something from any other corporate housing that you have. Some might so it just really depends. So you want to make sure that is more so the focus. They want to qualify your business, and you want to make sure that you're still taking that under your business name. Now, when you work with a landlord, your landlord doesn't care so much so about your DUNS number and all that stuff. So your job is to more so position yourself. Right. When I go talk to a landlord and I go look at the property, for one thing, you have a much higher rental success. You look at it like you put eyes on it yourself. Like you go see it. If you're able to talk to the agent or talk to the landlord, then that's great. And just talk to them. So when you look at the property, you just talk to them, say, hey, I definitely like your property, but I actually want to rent this property. I'm not going to be a traditional tenant. I would love to rent this property. I like to rent this property under a business because I think it's really great. And I think the people that we serve, our medical travelers and our business travelers, will really like it. I will pay your rent on time, and your rent will be paid on an automated basis. And we will take care of maintenance for you up to $200. So if there's any maintenance issues up to $200, we'll take care of that for you. We'll just keep you updated as to what's going on. If it's above $200, we'll make recommendations on who to fix it. And we will manage the entire process for you and make sure that you are aware of everything that's going on. Once everything is fixed, we'll let you know. This is how we secure your place. This is the technology that we use. This is how we screen our guests to make sure we get the right people to stay in your unit. Understand the cleaning process that has to happen between each guest that stays here. We have to clean this property because it has to show for everybody that stays in here. So we're going to clean it. Nobody's going to clean this property the way we're going to clean this property, from baseboards to the fans to everything. We're going to take care of this property. We're going to leave this property in better shape than you gave it to us. So understand that not only are you going to get your rent on time, you're going to get a tenant that's going to take very, very good care of your property. Because understand that, for one thing, landlords have pain points. And I still have some houses that are traditional rental properties. So I'm a landlord, and I've been a landlord before I became a short-term rental investor. So I understand the plight of a landlord, which is, for one thing, getting your rent paid on time, because we cannot stand that. We cannot stand that. We cannot stand people that won't take care of our properties either. Those two things, for me, those are very, very important things. So so we make sure that we address that we address those pain points when we're talking to the landlord. And for people who work with me, I have a script that we use. And our script is the script has been so fine-tuned that right now we're getting like a 40% success rate. So it's like almost every other person that you talk to is going to tell you yes, because just by using the script. So yeah, you definitely want to approach them. You want to let them know. The key is to let them know who you are, what you do, who you serve. And that's really
awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Edward, looks like he's back. You can go ahead and ask your questions.
Great, thank you. TJ, shouts out to you. Actually, I was at the your house opening last week, so that was very nice. So well
let's
done
go.
on that.
Appreciate you, man.
Word, yeah, for sure. Actually, from going to that, I now switched into going to the Airbnb, the short term. I was thinking traditional at first. So I used the Airbnb website and I searched up my property on the north side of Houston. It's about 5 minutes from the IAH. And it gave some nice numbers. So the question I have is, how accurate would you say AirDNA is? And I have a follow-up question after that.
No, AirDNA is good. It's accurate. If you want to confirm those numbers, then go on Airbnb itself. Because you can run this data search. You can run that data yourself. You just go on Airbnb and then go to map views. And then zoom in on that particular area that you're looking, that your unit's potentially going to be at, and click on those listings in that area. Click on the listing, see how occupied they are, see if they have professional photos, see how the listing description is, see if they actually have like booking, see what they pricing it at, and how booked they are at that price. And so do that in combination with what you get with AirDNA and cross-reference that to really firm up those numbers. AirDNA is good. The numbers, their research is pretty good. The only drawback with AirDNA, I would say, is because there's no way for them to quantify if somebody is a full-time host or just a part-time. Like somebody might just have a room that they rent out, a few times a month, or maybe they rent it out when they're out of town. There's no way to really quantify that. So if they say, hey, this is how much this unit makes a year, and it's a 3-bedroom just like yours, but you don't know if it's really like for real, because you don't know if they actually do full-time or part-time or not. And there's no way for them to find it out. There's no way for them to quantify that. So you kind of got to take AirDNA with a grain of salt. Their data is really good. Everything outside of that is good. So just cross-reference it with your own research and you'll be good.
Okay. Appreciate that. And then the last question is, I know you mentioned that, I guess, with your short term, you've got 50% ownership and then 50% is the like the arbitrage. I guess with the ownership bit, what was the toughest part in scaling that? I know you have multiple properties, and once you reach about 10 or so, maybe even less than that, the financing gets a bit tricky, and then they look a bit more into your reserves and things like that. So I guess the biggest challenge of how you scaled and how you overcame that.
So especially when units that you're looking to own, you can't scale it that fast. Like unless you now say, like right now I'm working on a 13-unit building that I'm looking to buy. Now that's, you know, when I buy it, that's gonna be a quick scale, like, but it's multiple units at one time, right? So, but if you're looking to buy every single one that you have, it's gonna be a slower process to scale it. Now, for one thing, you just got to be cautious within yourself not to be over leveraged, because that's going to be one of the challenging parts, is to not be over leveraged. Because for one thing, like I am, like right now I'm remodeling a duplex in Third Ward, and I was remodeling this duplex at the same time as I was doing these two houses that I'm launching right now. So, you know, and you don't want to stretch yourself too thin. So now that I'm about to offload this one and I'm about to refinance this house, now I'm looking for another project.
Right.
Already. So it just, you know, you just got to be careful with that, and to not overextend yourself. Because understand, especially managing the REIT. See, the way I buy my properties, I remodel all of them. I like to remodel them, because what that does is it dramatically it gives me a really good chance of leveraging other people's money to do it, and decreases my out-of-pocket costs drastically. Like rather than doing conventional, putting higher percent down.
Right.
You know, I like to remodel them, and it takes time. It takes more time. See, I'm just going short little tangent on real estate, right? So there's a time versus money exchange when you own real estate. For the very first investment property I bought in 2015, didn't need any work whatsoever. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Missouri City. It had new roof, new everything, new HVAC, new flooring, new everything. I bought that property for $90,000. I did a conventional loan with $20,000. I mean, with 20% down, with closing costs, came out to $22,000. So I came to close table with $22,000, and within 2 weeks, I had to rent it out. I put up a rent sign, and I had more calls than I can handle, and I had to rent it out within 2 weeks. Right? So my mortgage was $840 a month, and I was renting it for $1,250 a month. So that delta, right, that difference, that's my cash flow. Equals to about a 23-24% cash on cash return on investment, which is a good investment, not bad. Right. Now, it took money. It didn't take much time for me to get a cash flow from the point that I bought it. Only 2 weeks, but it did take a good amount of down payment to acquire that property. Then compare that to the very first Airbnb the very first property I made in Airbnb. This is also a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, but it was in horrible shape. I remodeled this property. Now, this property I bought for $90,000, but the after repair value, once the property's fixed up, the after repair value came in at $240,000 once it's fixed up. So that was verified with a third-party appraiser that my lender sent. So I used private money to fund this deal. My lender said, okay, since it's going to be worth $240 once it's fixed up, I'm going to give you 70% of the $240.
Loan to value.
That's loan LTV, right? He gave me 70% loan to value, which came out to be about $168,000. I took that $168,000. I put $90,000 to purchase the property. I put the rest to do the remodel. Then I still had extra to cover the closing costs, and I was able to cover 4 months of the interest payments up front. So I was able to buy this property with $0 out of my pocket, leveraging other people's money. And I have a loan balance of about $168,000, $170,000, but the property is worth about. And even when I finished remodeling it, then it was time to refinance it. The refinance lender, which was Allegiance Bank, they sent their appraiser out. It actually appraised for $245,000, which is even a little bit more. So I was able to refinance my private lender out of there, and that's why I paid $0 out of my own pocket, $0 out of my own pocket to own that property. And that property now spits out about $4,000 a month on the Airbnb. You know what I mean? So so there's a time versus money exchange. That first example, I bought it with my money. That second example, I bought it with my time. It took time. It was a 3-4 month process to get there. So there's a time, and so I buy all my real estate now with my time. So if you can study and if you can master how to buy real estate with your time, you can build wealth for years to come.
For sure, no, for sure, appreciate that. And one quick yes or no, joint: are you in the syndication, or would you be one?
I'm not in. I'm not in one. I'm not in one, nor have I done one. But I'm looking to do a good one. I'm looking to do a good one.
Bless.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks, TJ. It's 6:07 now. I don't know if anyone has any last minute question, but we're going to round up. If you have any question, you can ask.
My bad, y'all. I was a little winded today.
No, you dropped some gems. This was some important information. Yes.
One more question. So I had to step out for a second. Did you guys talk about how you finance these deals?
Well, you talking about rental arbitrage or how I buy them, how I own them?
Yeah, how you own. I'm sorry, how you own.
Yeah, we just talked about how I use private money to own my real estate. Yes.
Got it.
Yes,
All
we
right.
definitely, yeah,
That's
for
all I
sure.
need to know. No problem.
Yeah, TJ, I'm gonna have to book that 1 hour session with you. I'm not gonna lie. I need a little more information on how to, how to, how to refinance and get your bread back out to keep repeating that.
And it's a rinse and repeat process. Exactly.
Got it. Cool. Appreciate
it. See it? Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And for those who are interested in a mentorship program regarding the short-term rental space, definitely book a call with me. Let me put it back. Man, I forgot to. It's just calendly.com/ I'm just real quick, just last minute share while we get off.
Did you have a property already before you book? Like, would it make sense to have one?
Before you book to talk to me?
Yeah.
No, you don't have to. No, you don't have to. No, you don't have to. Just if you a lot of folks that join my program, they don't have any units yet. They don't have anything yet, but they join the program to learn and they get it going.
All right. Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah, to
I'll
get the
be
coaching.
booking a session too.
Yeah. Calendly.com/ STR roadmap. Definitely holler at me.
All right. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, Joey.
No problem.
Okay, thank you guys. Thanks, TJ. That was a wonderful